Welcome to the Conscious Contact group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Grant, and I'm an alcoholic. This is a one-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church at 8:30 p.m. in Doylestown, PA. We record all our speakers so that others may have benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask us. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Yes.
Whitney, alcoholic.
Welcome, Whitney.
I am Ernie, an alcoholic.
Hey, Ernie, welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gary, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Gary, welcome. If you have any questions or would like to make us your home group, please see any group member after the meeting. Would group members please raise their hands? Are there any announcements for the good of AA? We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or Ron after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books to help those who can't afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book Donations in the back next to the donuts and coffee. If you'd like a CD of this speaker or any past speaker, please see me or Ron after the meeting. They're available at no charge. We always need your help, so if you would like to get involved with this meeting and group, please see Ron or I before or after the meeting. Now I'm going to read the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and to help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. I have asked John J. if he would please come up to read the 12 steps.
Hi everyone, John, alcoholic. These are the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7. Humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continued to take personal inventory and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
Thanks, John. So we have a seventh tradition. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I would like to pass the basket. We have one specific group announcement regarding this location. There's absolutely no speaking on the church property. Does it say speaking? No smoking. No smoking on the church property. So, and if you see any butts on the ground, if you would please help us clean them up. Also, please silence your cell phones and try to limit your movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. So I'd like to introduce our speaker for tonight is Chris B. His home group is Holy Family College.
Thanks, Grant. My name's Chris Brennan. I'm a recovered alcoholic. All of a sudden feel a little underdressed, but I apologize if that's a problem. Thank Ron for asking me to come out and speak. I've never been in Doylestown at nighttime. I do know a few of you from the Saturday morning Big Book study. What's it been, 2 years now we've been up here, or we're up here? Whatever, unbelievable. Everybody's getting old, especially Bonnie. My sobriety date is March 2nd, 1994. I've been sober continuously since then, whatever that means, I'm really not sure. I don't really have a home group per se. I'm more of like a free agent. We go around, do a lot of big book studies in different, not that there's anything wrong with a home group, just don't have time for it. And we go around, do a lot of big book studies, a lot of different areas, and that's what we do. I have like this running joke with some of the guys. I got sober in Northeast Philadelphia a little over 20 years ago, and the running joke with some guys I've known from years down there, if I ran into them tonight somewhere, they would say, I'm quite sure, there's more to AA in that big book. And I would say, well, let me know when you find it, because I haven't found anything yet more important than the big book in AA. So it's just kind of funny. And that's what we do. I'm a Philly boy by heart, Southwest Philadelphia, 5707 Elmwood Avenue. That's where my heart will always be. In the playground at 57th and Grays. I had my first drink in 1976, somewhere around that. I love how people know when they had their first drink, where they were and all that. I have no idea. I mean, somewhere around there, I guess. I don't know. But I'm a Philly boy, born and raised, row house, Philadelphia, Rocky, all that good stuff. We were reading some AA history recently, and they were talking, Bill was talking about how they summered together up in Vermont. And I'm like, man, I didn't summer anywhere. I spent my summers under the fire plug at 57th and Grays. That was I don't know, what I missed there. But come from a good family. I wish I could tell you I had a family to blame this on, but not really. My mother really hardly ever drank at all. She was like a saint, German, full blood. And my dad was Irish and German. He drank a lot. My whole family, I have 2 older sisters that seem to be normal. You know what I mean? We never really had them tested or anything, but the normal, family's the whole deal, and they drink a little bit, whatever. And then there's me. Seem to be normal, seem to be the bright youngest kid, seem to be the star of the family, and something went dramatically wrong. I don't know when. Sometime I guess around the late 80s, I started to go down hard and never came back up. No one knew what was wrong. Nobody asked. And I certainly didn't know. And everybody knows how that goes. My family, every man I ever knew in my family worked at the Arco oil refinery down in South Philadelphia, Passyunk Avenue. And I just assumed when I got old enough, working age, that's what I was going to do. So I really never had a plan for life. I test well, they tell me. I did well in school, but I just never really, looking back, it's all in hindsight. I really didn't ponder these things back then. But my father, he wanted me to be a lawyer or a baseball player. And by the time I got to high school, that just seemed like so much work. You know what I mean? And I really never had a plan for my life. I wish I would have, now, I guess. I don't know. Wouldn't trade it in for being a heroin addict, an alcoholic, and an AA, really. But, other than that, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. It didn't look like it back then, but it just goes to show you I'm not real good at knowing what's good for me. That might be a lesson to learn for life. Never trust your own thinking, all that good stuff. Because the things you may think are good are maybe bad and vice versa. And usually are, in my experience. So when I was I was a shy kid. I don't know why. I seemed to have that voice over time in your head. Always felt like I had to overcompensate in sports. I'm like my father. I love an audience. You know what I mean? No stranger to this stuff. You know what I mean? I'll talk, if you're not doing nothing, I'll talk till like 3 in the morning if you want to hang out. Whatever, AA history, we can go through all kinds of stuff. But I'm kind of like my dad in that sense, and I don't know. When it was time for me to get a job and work, they were closing those refineries down, and I didn't know what I was going to do. Up until that point, like I said, I did well in school. West Catholic, 1978, St. Mary's grade school. I graduated, I think I had first honors. It goes to show you that I don't know is a problem, but I'm pretty sure I had first honors every single semester through high school. That's pretty good. I do well. I'm capable of it. I can pay attention, but I was a shy kid, played a lot of sports to overcompensate, a little tense maybe, and now looking back on it now, maybe because I was short, I don't know, maybe because my name begins with a B and I always had to sit up front. Like I said, I didn't ponder these things, but I went to an all-boys high school and hadn't taken a drink until about sophomore year of high school, 1976-ish, the bicentennial. My hair was longer, bell bottoms, whatever, and maybe that flowered shirt. But I drank something called Tequila Sunrise. It was tequila mixed with some kind of nasty orange drink. Whether it was my first drink technically or not, I don't know. One of my first drinks. And I can remember it, looking back on it like yesterday, and all that stuff went away. My head wasn't bothering me anymore. Wasn't shy. Actually, I think I grew a couple inches immediately. I don't know about you. When I drink, I turn into Dean Martin and Sinatra all in one. I know everything. I know everything usually, but you give me a couple drinks and I'll defend, even if I'm wrong, I don't care. I'll defend it. And you put me in a bar with the local news on, Iraq, Iran, world peace, it does something to me. I didn't know that back then that other people really weren't getting this kind of effect from alcohol. I didn't learn that till years later, till I ripped the copper tubing out of my house and all that stuff. I didn't understand that other people weren't getting that. I compared myself to other people my whole life. They looked like me, they drank like me, but it didn't make them alcoholic, and it was apples and oranges, and I never knew that until somebody sat me down in the mid-'90s when I made it to AA and explained this doctor's opinion to me and the theory behind all this stuff. And I was like, oh, well, it's the story of my whole life. Yeah, exactly, right? So if you end up in AA someday, it's usually not a coincidence. Really never met anybody that was misdiagnosed. I can't remember meeting many people in 20 years, and all of a sudden you don't see them for a few years, and you run into them in a super fresh, and yeah, it's just going through a thing. I'm cool now. It usually doesn't work that way. Oh no, he's dead, or he killed 39 people, and whatever. It's usually it ends up ugly. So if you're here, something to think about. It's usually not by mistake. So from then on, sophomore year of high school on, I don't think I took a book home until I graduated. The rest of high school. I did well. I thought it was kind of easy. I thought they were kind of gearing it towards maybe, I don't know what you would call it. It was mostly open book test. Come on, really? Is it that difficult? But whatever. And I graduated high school. I was top 10% of my class. I could have been somebody, I could have been a contender, but I really, where I grew up and at that time, weren't a lot of kids I remember going to college. And if they were weirdos. You know what I mean? College, come on, give me a break. I don't mind being smart, and I want to show off my genius when I'm drinking, but I really don't want you. It's kind of a weird dilemma, isn't it? It's not cool to be smart at the same time. I had street cred before they had a name for it, you know what I mean? And my father he was my hero. Smartest, cleverest, funniest, wittiest guy I ever met in my life. World War II Marine, just old school to the T. You know what I mean? And he was a high school graduate, and he just tried to implore me for years to read, just read anything. It's the only way to learn. I was like, read? What are you kidding me? I ain't got time to read. You know what I mean? I'm out, I'm doing stuff, I'm busy. It just seems so boring. And he said, well, you're never going to be able to learn any. Like, how do you plan on learning? I'm like, learn what? And I just went about my life. It was all an accident. I got out of high school. I don't think I was sober a day in my life on purpose from sophomore year of high school till they put me in a rehab at 33 years old. Now, that may sound like an exaggeration, but I mean, I'm sure I was sick or something like along the way. I don't remember ever being like purposely sober. I can't fathom that to this day. Somebody famously once said, never trust a man who doesn't drink. Unless you're in AA. I don't trust people that just don't drink here and there, you know what I mean? They seem like they're up to something to me. Unless you really tried drinking and burnt your life to the ground, we'll give you that. But it's just weird. I don't understand wanting to be sober on purpose. I don't know, maybe that's me, but that's just the way I always thought. And in 1979, I accidentally got a job at a place called the Philadelphia Stock Exchange. I'd like to tell you I went to school for it or some crap, but some girl we were hanging out with got a job. How she found out, who knows? And we were doing a lot of drugs, drinking a lot. It was on early in life. And she got a job, and she's telling us about it, and they're hiring anybody. And we're like, oh, kind of sounds like us. So we went down, and they put a polo shirt. They put a tie on you like that day. And we was like what they called runners. You would check off these numbers. Orders would come off a machine, and you had to check off the correlating number. Come on, really? I got this. I felt, and my ego already, an arrogant kid at 19, 20 years old. I had an American Express account. I had an American Express card. I was eating at the nicest restaurants in Philadelphia. I moved into Center City at 20 years old. And I was done and didn't even know it. I had no respect from that day forward for money, for anything. And man, you just talk about a breeding ground for alcoholism, drug addiction, you name it. That was the place. Guys and girls in brightly colored jackets, a couple thousand of us just like running around like nuts on a daily basis. And they paid you to do it, and paid you good money to do it. As long as you showed up for work the next day, which as years went on, I'm not real good at that, as it turns out. My dad had a great work ethic. That was his main thing. I don't know what my dad taught me as a kid, but I think it had something to do with as long as you go to work, pretty much don't kill anybody, you can do whatever else, you know what I mean? But I know there's some kind of connection, you got to get up and go to work. And as it turns out, I'm just not real good at that. I was for in the beginning, but after a number of years, I'm not big on Mondays. I don't stick around too much on Fridays. They had a running joke if I was going out for lunch, if it was Tuesday afternoon, hey, Chris, we'll see you Thursday. And guess what? They'd be lucky to see me Thursday. I never meant to do that. I'd go across the street, Jimmy Milan's for lunch. And next thing you know, I'm in an airport in Dallas. Like, what? I don't even know where I'm at. I remember calling out sick a few times. They were like, where are you? I said, I don't know. I'm in the Dallas airport. What the hell are you doing there? I said, I don't even know. How do you know you're... Well, I said, I'm looking at the sign says Dallas. I know I'm there, but I would just wake up places like that. I remember waking up in a beautiful little cottage in... where the hell was it? Like Salt Lake City one time. To this day, I have no idea. I guess after I started drinking... After years of it, I would go to the airport. I don't know. Maybe I knew somebody there. I don't know. But I just wake up in strange places. And I'm that guy. You remember what you know. Do you know what you did last night? In the beginning, that was cool. And I kind of liked that. It was like a badge of courage. But it gets old after a while. Because no, I really don't remember. I hope I didn't kill anybody. I hope I didn't hurt anybody. I don't remember. You know what I mean? Then we get sober and we're making amends. And I got this real tight list. I know who I hurt. Jesus, I can't remember yesterday what I had for lunch. And that's why part of the process when you're making amends is, by the way, is there anything else I did to you? You want to get some answers, try that. You know what I mean? Chris, you know what? Keep your money. You're an arrogant... sorry. And people will really tell you what they thought of you over the years and what you did to them. Did well down there to the mid-'80s. I got a phone call. I had my name in the paper. I had a title. My family was so proud. My dad was scared. He doesn't understand stock exchange. He was old school. Work, work, work. So much an hour. And I'm getting bonus checks that were more than he made in a year. He didn't like that. I understand today. It scared him. I don't know what the hell you're doing, but and I'm like, Dad, I gotta wear a suit every day. What do you mean you don't know what I'm doing? Like I'm not in the underworld or something. It's a legitimate job. I don't want to know about it. Just go to work. You know what I mean? And sometime in the mid-'80s, I got a phone call that later on became regular, and it went something like this: Chris, we love you, but we have to let you go. And I was fired on the spot like that. And I thought, you son of a... Do you know who I am? You know what I mean? And years later, I forced up an Alcoholics Anonymous. It wasn't that I didn't know what happened, but I had a guy say to me, well, what did you do? I never looked at it that way. Oh, I did something illegal. I did it all the time. Everybody did it. You know what I mean? It was called insider trading. We talk about abusing expense accounts and stuff like that. I mean, if a big company, I couldn't fathom that. My whole adult life was either something illegal or immoral. And it never even dawned on me. And I think I'm a good guy. Every time I got locked up years later, I thought there was like real criminals in me. I really did. It should have been a different wing. I'm like guilty with an explanation. I know I robbed that store, Your Honor, but I'm not really a thief. I'm a stockbroker. I know I've had some bad couple of years, and I really thought that if my motive wasn't like bad like that there was and I remember this judge looked me dead in the eyes years ago, and he said, son, did you rob that store? I said, oh, yes, Your Honor. He said, I got news for you. You're a common criminal. I hit home for about a half hour, right? It really bothered me. But it never dawned on me. I always thought because I had a reason for it, like that was a different level or something. And I went down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I don't know, but everybody's got somewhere they go. I had guys a couple of years ahead of me in high school. These guys left in 1976, and they never came home to this day. They still bartend they're 55 years old. They still bartend in the Parrot Lounge in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. If you go down there, mention West Catholic, you'll get a free drink. Mention whatever, Southwest Philly. I mean, there's like 6 of them, and they never came back. And that's where we would go. And we got fired, and we got in trouble. We'd go there, and like Bill says in his story, as the whiskey rose to my... See, you give me a couple drinks, I can solve the world. I don't really ever follow it up with action, but I got some good ideas. So I wasn't upset. I went down there, I drank, and I'm going to regroup, and I came back, and the worst thing that could have happened, I got another job right away, and one of my customers told my competitor, you hire him or you're not getting any more business, and bam, I was off to the races again, did really well for a couple of years, and it happened again. See, because I can never get enough money, I can never get enough anything, as it turns out. And every time I chase that or use the material world as a means for success, the goal would always move. I mean, how much money do you need? I was friggin' 25 years old. I didn't have any responsibilities. I didn't have a house or anything. I had rent, but I was making zillions of dollars and I had nothing. Just I needed more. Got to steal. And as it turns out, I was raised Catholic and all that, and morals and all that, but I'm really not above compromising them, as it turns out. I'll steal, I'll rob, it bothers me in the beginning a little bit, but really not that long. It's amazing how that works. And by the end of the 80s, I'll say in passing, I picked up a problem with another substance that it's on the news a lot these days, and you need a lot of money to keep it going, and you talk about taking you down quick. I thank God today. You know what I mean? Out of respect for Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't talk about that stuff. I don't think you need to talk about it. I think if you need to talk about something else, you're off track already. You talk about the solution. When you talk about God, when you talk about helping others, stop focusing on what your problem is. This is what my sponsor talking to me. And but that took me down quick. Luckily, there was no eBay or Amazon or anything, because I have a tendency to sell stuff. I become an instant salesman. The problem is a lot of it isn't mine. right? And by 1990, they told me to leave and don't come back, and they meant it. And I left. I left my briefcase and my sport coat. To this day, I have no idea what happened to it, and I never went back. And I did what all heroes do at 30 years old. I moved in with Mom and Dad. By this time, they were up in Northeast Philadelphia, and I thought, hey, thank God I'm here to help, and I lived in their basement. They had a nice townhouse. They had moved out of Southwest Philadelphia. It was a brand new townhouse, Scotchbrook, Bustleton, and Welsh. You know what I mean? I was a little out of my element, but I'm a little Irish Catholic kid, but that's another story. We don't have time to get into that. And I thought, thank God I'm here for them, as I did some despicable things to my family. I'd love to tell you that woke me up, and I've been sober since then, but it was just starting to get bad. I eventually lost the ability to work altogether. I don't know about you. There's a certain point I can't work. Who am I kidding? It's a waste of time for me to go get a job because I just won't stay. And I just lost the ability to work altogether. And I'm hanging out with these young guys, and I'm still. My mother was diagnosed with cancer, and I'm kind of excited when she has a doctor's appointment, like we're both going. And I'm taking her medication. I'm stealing my father's wallet when he goes to bed at night, and I'm doing my banking. And it was just ugly. My mother eventually passed away. My oldest sister threatened to kill me, and I had one set of clothes and pretty much zero left in life. It was just a matter of how you were going to read about it. I never really entertained the thought of taking my own life because I didn't want to leave that legacy on my dad. I'm not robbing him, but I did not want to. There was like some kind of code there, I guess. I don't know what it was, but it was weird. I guess it was the Marine Corps code. I don't know what it was. But I couldn't see that. And funny thing is, my dad, after my mom died, he was in his 70s. He drank his whole life. I mean, the man could drink. I never seen him drunk. He never missed a day's work, probably his whole life, for all I know. And in his 70s, after my mother passed away, he was starting to drink a little more. He was retired, and my dad was the kind of guy, never hired a contractor in his life. I hated him. He would read and do it. I am not mechanically inclined. You know what I mean? We have a running joke for years. For Christmas, I'd start it one year. I would get my wife like a special power tool every year, and she'd get me like a helper's belt or something like that. I don't know how to. It's just fear. I'm afraid I won't be able to do it. As it turns out, you try something, and it's not that bad. But my dad was good with that stuff, and from reading and putting all that together, and for the first time in my life, I didn't even recognize the man. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, he didn't want to do anything. The lawn didn't need to be cut. I mean, he'd be out there with scissors at midnight cutting the lawn. You know what I mean? He was meticulous with that stuff. Now, all of a sudden, he's like, nah, don't worry about it. And my sisters asked me to talk to him, believe it or not. It was kind of like a reverse intervention, I guess. I don't know what it was. I was like, well, what about me? I'm living in the basement here, you know. Anybody see me here? But they asked me to talk to my dad because my dad was old school. He probably wouldn't have listened to the girls. So I tried to give him the talk. I don't know you. You're not the man. He said, shut up. He said, if you take me to the hospital, I'll never talk to you again. You know, just no ambulance. Get away from me. And I had to physically carry him out like a little kid, kicking and screaming. And we took him to the hospital, and the doctor said, Mr. Brennan, if you ever have another drink, you're going to die. And the man never drank again. 18 more years he lived, outlived 2 women, smoked his whole life, and drank forever. And would kid and say, what the hell them doctors know? They don't know what's good for you. Does that make you alcoholic? Not really. Not according to our book. When I got sober, I don't know if there was any connection, but a few months after that, I got out of another lockup, and my father was a little disgusted with me by this time, and I called him upstairs the next morning, and he's, what? And I'm like, I need help. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, I don't really know, but I want to go through the window at night. I've been punching the walls. I don't know what I need, but I need some kind of help. I don't know if I ever heard of Alcoholics Anonymous. If I did, it certainly didn't sound like a place I would want to go. A loser, maybe. That's about it, right? Or rehab. Are you kidding me? Do you know who I am? Rehab. And he said the famous, well, I'm going to call your sisters. And I should have bailed out right there, but I don't know about you, I wasn't keeping track of my sister's business careers at this point. My oldest sister happened to be in the healthcare field. Who knew? And she's on the phone, and she goes, we got you on a waiting list. It's a 28-day inpatient program, a place called Riverside House in Northeast Philadelphia. It's not there anymore. And I was a little insulted. 28 days. It's a friggin' month. What the hell am I going to do for a month? Like, I couldn't fathom. Just let me get a job, let me get some money, right? I always equate everything with that, and I'll figure this out. With my brain power and a little money, I'll be fine. And boy, was I in for a lesson. They put me in there. I don't even like using the phrase got sober. If I could have stolen another $20 in 1994, trust me, you'd have a different speaker tonight. And I didn't get sober. They kind of like took me there, and for some reason I went in. I don't know why. I really didn't have to. It wasn't a high security place. They didn't really keep you there. And I met a guy there who did the night lectures, who I became my sponsor and still my sponsor to this day. Don't really do a whole lot with him, but he's my sponsor nonetheless. And he was a Philadelphia cop. There was something about him that I related to, language of the heart, we call it in AA, and I just thought this guy's like me. I don't know what it is. And I asked that man to sponsor me before I left there. Man, you talk about difficult. It's like asking another man to be your Valentine. It's like, I know you're busy, but do you think possibly? But he laughed and he said, I noticed you bought a big book when you were in here. Did you read it, by the way? No, I got to be honest with you. I'm like, what the fuck am I going to learn from a book? Who knew that Bill Wilson, like his story, it pretty much is me, but I'm over here. Like, what am I going to learn from a book? And he signed his phone number in there. He's like, I noticed you bought some other literature. I want you to put that in your drawer for now. And 20 years later, he's never told me to take it out yet. That's not a shot at the other literature. He knew me, and he knew I'm full of crap, and he knew that I would take all this literature and get these big words and sound good, and I did. People, you sound good, man. Keep coming back. I'm speaking at 89 days, and I'm like on the special program, and people, see, that's my problem. I can sound good. And he said, meanwhile, you're dying of untreated alcoholism inside. And just put them books away. We're going to use this book. It's got the 12 steps. It's got the original directions. Can you handle that? I won't ask you to do anything I didn't do. And if it ain't in there, you ain't got to do it. If it is in there, you got to do it. Any questions? If not, get a new sponsor. It's like, this guy's a little rough. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, we become very sensitive, right? I don't care my whole life. I run over people. Now I'm in AA, and I'm like, oh, jeez. And I got sober at Stepping Stones, the clubhouse, Tacony, Northeast Philadelphia. Love those guys. A lot of them are passed on. Bud R. and Tom D. and those guys. And I didn't really sit down. When I got sober in the mid-'90s, there wasn't a whole lot of big book studying going on. There was big books in there. They were in the cabinet. And they would have a big book meeting. I think it was Thursday nights. But it was kind of like the format was a little bit of a problem. You read the whole chapter, and you take a break, and nobody's really paying attention anyway. And it's a little bit of a flawed format. And you come back from the break, and everybody, it was a great reading. Anyway, they tell you about me. And then everybody gets into that, and we say what a great reading it was. I don't think any human has the attention span to learn anything from that book or any book like that. You know what I mean? If something strikes me on the first page, by the second page it's gone. Now I read something new by the third page, and after that I'm looking around the room, and I don't look at him. Who the hell are you looking at? And look at her, and oh my God, and I'm gone. I'm lost. I just can't do it like that. I've been doing it. We started a big book study. What happened was we heard this speaker, Bob O. from Minnesota somewhere, at a convention in New Jersey, South Jersey. And he blew us away talking about the big book. Joe and Charlie were also on the scene around the mid-'90s. We didn't know who the hell these hicks were, we had cassette tapes back then. You talk about cumbersome, right? At least now you got the digital tapes. We had to where are we at? It took them like 35 minutes to rewind where we were at on the tape. Meeting was almost over, but it was good. Those guys, if you're familiar with them, I mean, they would just blow us away with the stuff they were. I mean, all they were doing was actually reading the words and talking about them. I don't know, it wasn't rocket science, but you're not allowed to do that in AA, are you? You're not allowed to actually read that book and discuss it. And hey, let's do it slow and time out. Let's look up some definitions, or if you want to ask a question while we're reading it, your head won't blow off. You know what I mean? Like, oh no, that's not in the format. And it's like, Jesus Christ, relax a little bit. And we've been studying the big book like that for the last 20 years, one paragraph at a time, like the textbook it claims to be. I don't think you can read a textbook and get anything out of it. When I want to do if I want to do a little light reading at home, I don't pick up a trigonometry textbook and get back on the recliner, you know. You got to read a little bit and discuss it. When Bob met Bill in 35, what did this idiot Bill from Rumhound from New York, what did he tell Bill, who was already way more biblically based and spiritual than Bill ever would be? What did he tell him? One of the things he said, one was drinking from experience, language of the heart. He said, but the second thing was, for the first time in my life, it dawned on me, when you treat spirituality like a sponge, trying to read it and do it, it doesn't exist. You have to give it away, or you don't have anything. We tend to want to read stuff, whether it's the big book, the Bible, whatever you're reading, and do it. But that would make you God. Where are you getting the power to do it? The power comes from that third part, giving it to somebody else. And as far as I can tell, that's the way the game's rigged. Why, I don't know. If there is a God, I assume he created us that way, a little broken, a little cracked, so we'd have to go to him every day. That makes sense to me, right? If I could just read shit and do it, I really wouldn't need God, would I? After a couple of weeks. Wouldn't need AA, wouldn't need anything. I would go back to this stellar mind of mine and go on with my life. But apparently, there's a connection between reading stuff and showing somebody else and giving it away, and that whole God working through you thing, as opposed to God helping me to go do something. I just don't think it works that way. About the same time, novel idea. What the hell, while you're at it, why don't you take the 12 steps? So, same sponsor. He laughed. He's like, where the hell you been? I've been waiting for you to call. And we sat down about a year into it, maybe a little over a year. And for the first time in my life, he explained my life to me. He sat me down and we went over this thing called the doctor's opinion. It's got Roman numerals, so you'll never read it. We don't read regular numerals, so I had no shot at the Roman numerals. And this Dr. Silkworth years ago, who treated Bill Wilson, basically his opinion was, in a nutshell, on page 7 of the big book is the best description. He goes, I met a kind doctor who just explained to me, although selfish and foolish, we were both ill bodily and mentally. Silkworth's opinion was, I know you people are mentally screwed up, and I know you've been being told that for years, but I think there's something physically different when you drink than other people. What it doesn't turn other people into Sinatra and Dean Martin. I drink and my mortgage goes away, right? I drink and they should be paying me, Bank of America. You know, that's some earth-shattering stuff. When alcohol does that for you, you're never going to give it up without a higher power. Never going to beat it single-handedly. And I had to learn this stuff. And Silkworth called it an allergy. That seemed like a weak excuse. Hey, Dad, I know I owe you 10 grand, but I learned in rehab I'm allergic to alcohol. So we know what we did. We got slick. We started looking up words. We used a 1930s dictionary to look at the words that Bill used, because it's written in a little bit of outdated language a little bit. And allergy, anyway, means abnormal reaction to any substance. And as it turns out, it's just a numbers thing. Abnormal, we looked up abnormal, and it means not in the majority. Well, that fits in 9 out of 10 people, they say, get a different effect from alcohol than 1 out of 10. I guess making 10% roughly of the population alcoholic. That's somewhere around what they say is true. I don't know. Who the hell knows? But I know this. I know the effect I get from alcohol, and I had to find out what's the normal effect. So you talk to some normal people. There's nothing wrong with alcohol, by the way. That's not your problem. Don't be mad at alcohol. Apparently, the normal effect is a slightly tipsy, out of control. They don't like it. Ever talk to somebody, right? They have a couple, you want another? No, thank you. I still feel that last one. I never uttered that statement in my life. I'm ripping your medicine cabinet apart by this time, right? I just never have had that mindset, I'm good. I always need, whatever it is, I'm so scared I won't have enough. And I don't know if you're like that. But slightly tipsy, out of control, you try to force a third drink, they're starting to get a little nauseous, they'll throw up in your bathroom. And if you try to they'll give you a solid answer. No, thank you. Got to go to work tomorrow. I mean, you can't argue with that logic, right? No, thank you, I'm driving. All right, man, I mean, kind of got me there, right? 1 out of 10, Silkworth said, gets an abnormal reverse effect. Instead of out of control, for the first time in my life, I feel in control. The only time I ever feel normal in life before AA, when I was drinking or getting high. Yeah, I feel awkward sober. Sitting in Thanksgiving with my whole family, I look around, and I believe I was adopted. It's them and me. I'm awkward around people. You give me a couple drinks, man, I can come alive. Right? And that's the effect. I didn't know other people weren't getting that effect, right? And I started to understand what it meant to be powerless, what it meant to be an alcoholic and or drug addict, right? And somebody had to explain it to me like that. What effect do you get? You know what I mean? I take a couple drinks, work, screw work, I quit. Let's go to Vegas. You know what I mean? Driving, give me the keys, I'll drive. I don't even have a license. I'll show you how to drive. Settle down, right? That's what it does for me. It lifts me up, man, takes me above my fears and puts me, I can feel that. The good news, I feel sorry for people who never feel that, by the way. But the good side is it doesn't kill them. It'll kill somebody like me or you if you don't take the other 11 steps they told me. They said, good news is you finally identified your problem in life, kid, but you're going to die if you don't take the other 11 steps. And that's what we did. We went through the book. Never really had a problem. Step 2 with the idea of a higher power. A personal loving gun, not really feeling that too much, but that's really not a deal breaker in step 2. As long as you're willing to concede there might possibly be something greater than me, we can move on. I don't need to argue about your philosophies or this, that, and the other thing. Whatever your beliefs coming into AA almost killed you. So all we know is they got to change. That means whether you were an atheist, agnostic, believer, born again, you're smoking crack. Well, what religion is that? So we know it has to change. That's all we know. And step 3, making a decision basically to do this work. In step 3, for the first time in my life, they taught me to fight the proper enemy, me. I was always fighting drugs and alcohol. I think a lot of treatment centers tend to make that mistake when there is no treatment for drug or alcohol addiction. It's the thinking that's your problem, the book says. The problem centers in your mind. You can't hide from it. You can people, place, and thing all day. And unless you cut your head off, it's going to go with you. So the only solution is some kind of thought transformation, spiritual experience, etc. It goes back to Carl Jung, Roland Hazard, on through. They said, we don't really know what to tell you people, but you better find some kind of God. By the way, what's alcohol called? A spirit, right? And what do we do in AA? We replace it with another spirit, that's all. This isn't rocket science. One spirit's going to kill you, and is there any other spirit that I might be able to tap into that could help me? Fight it all you want. It's a pretty simple formula. Carl Jung gave that to us. Spirit versus spirit. So in step 3, I learned my real problem for once in my life, me, and I have a tendency to play God by managing my own life. And I get out there, I wake up in the morning, I got a plan for everybody, people in work and on the road and over here and over there, and that's going to kill a guy like me because everybody's got self-will. And they manage back at you. And there's constant collision. And the only way out of that, they told me, was to give up my free will and to buy into this higher power deal. Not only to buy into it, to learn how to try to live by it and trust it and ask it for guidance and stop. It's a management problem, basically. It says it in step 1. It's kind of like the Eagles, you know what I mean? Just take the headsets off. I like to call the plays. My problem is, if they told me if I would just put the headset off and let somebody else call the plays, I would probably make the playoffs. But I don't. I come into AA, I put that headset right back on, and my wife and my kids and this and that. And that's not going to do it. You know what I mean? I did not know. I didn't have the power to manage my own life. Maybe you did. sober or drinking. I will never have the power to manage my, that would make me God, right? I need to tap into that power on a daily basis. And I would bet so do you. Step 4, we basically list the blockages to all this stuff. Resentment, fear, sex conduct. Give you some little tricks. They're called prayers. You know what I mean? The resentment deal is basically resentment is me replaying anger and incorrect judgment. You do something to me, you're 100% wrong. Okay, no problem. I'm going to get angry, all that. The problem is next week, next year, 20 years from now, when I'm still replaying it in my head, and I think about you and that, that's not good, they tell me. And you multiply that by 10, 20, 100, right? The resentment way out is, isn't it possibly they're spiritually sick just like you? You're right, what are you fighting with them for? Aren't you trying to be of service here? It's a sick person. How can I be helpful? Save me from being angry, right? You can fight it all you want. It's been in that book for 75 years. It ain't going to change. You know what I mean? If you're new and you really don't agree with this, they ain't writing any new books that I'm aware of. 75 years, same answer. If you live through it and come back 10 years from now, they're going to be telling you the same thing, showing you the same prayer. So you either come to grips with it now or fight it and it kills you, right? Fear, where does that come from? Me relying on me? There's really no such thing as fear. Fear is when I rely on myself. It creates this thing called fear, right? Because I have limited power, right? I have finite power. This God thing has unlimited power, right? Infinite. Why not bring that into the equation? That makes too much sense. It's like going to a fight and bringing your big brother with you. Nah, I got this. And then it turns into this thing we call fear. And the way out of fear is not to face it and recover or walk through your fears or some crap like that. It's to ask the proper authority to remove it and direct your thinking elsewhere to who you could help. At once, the fear will go away. Come back 5 minutes later. Do it again. It might come back 20 times that day. Do it again. You busy? You going somewhere? Use these prayers, right? Resentment prayer, fear prayer. We could do a whole meeting on the sex part. We don't have really time to get into that. Tends to be seasonal with me. I don't know about you. I start to think I'm growing. This time of year I think it's my good time of year when it starts to get colder out. I'm not that bad. I'm kind of mature. I'm growing. All of a sudden May comes around and I go, man, I didn't really grow as much as I thought I did. And we have 3 prayers on that. We could probably use more, but we have 3, right? And it's basically not so much, my sponsor taught me, not my sexual behavior. I could see where I'm a pig in that at the drop of a dime. But how about the way I treat the opposite sex? Do I unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, bitterness? What do you mean? You worked in a locker room mentality, right? Girls and guys? Yeah. If you went out to a party and everybody was out together and a young lady asked you for a ride home, and then you went to work the next day, and whoa, yo, what happened? Well, I knew if I lied, that was wrong, but I have a reputation to protect, so I'm not above lying, right? But what I didn't really get was wrong is saying something like, don't worry about it. What do you think I did? Because there I want to protect my reputation, but I'm lying. The correct answer is I didn't do anything. I dropped her off. She was nice, whatever, right? But I can't do that. And so this is what this is trying to get me to see. The sex instinct, what it does to us, how it dictates my behavior around people. Step 5, you can't be objective about yourself, so you need another person, another set of eyes looking at your inventory so they can point out some things you can't see. No human being can ever be objective about themselves, they told me. It's the human condition. You can write the best 4-step in the history of AA, but you're going to see it slanted. You see things in your favor, right? You need another set of eyes, objectivity, looking at it. And that goes from that point further. That's why we use other people in AA. I need somebody looking at me going, Chris, are you out of your mind? What are you thinking here? And I can't see it. See, I can't see me clearly. I can see you clearly because I'm not in your life. But I can't see me clearly. And you can do the same thing, apparently. And that's why helping others is so important. Because I get to see this on the proper level. So I can learn it and get it deep-rooted in there. 6 and 7, defects of character, blockages. That's kind of the whole ball game after that. Are you ready to have God remove them? Of course. Really? Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't be? How'd you like to be 100% lust-free? What? How'd you like to be 100% lust-free? You mean like a monk or something? Wait a minute. No, I want to do this, but are you talking about like no sex? I'll tell you what, I'd like to make progress in that area. And then they clap for you, right? Oh, good. And it becomes my version of progress versus what the step says, entirely removed. See, I don't want my defects removed. I kind of like them. You don't take a lot. I mean, what am I without lust? I mean, what would I be? What would I do with my time? You know what I mean? At least the time I don't talk about. You know, what am I going to do all day? And anger. How'd you like to be anger-free? Of course. Well, unjustified anger. I'm not going to be a sap. I ain't going to let people walk on me. I like to make progress. Gossip, everything. That's the dilemma. I get that they're blocking me, but at the same time, there's a part of me that doesn't really want them removed. So I got to get up every day and fight the battle of self, my own thinking, and these defects. It doesn't ask me to not be them. We don't have preventative steps in AA to prevent you from getting angry or afraid or lustful. It just asks you to be on guard, and when you get in it, use the prayers, back out of it, etc., etc. Staying that way is dangerous. We can't prevent you. You're human. You're going to get that way. So the 12 steps are kind of spot and remove versus we don't have any preventative measures. So if you're trying to never be angry or not to be afraid or lustful, good luck. That's not going to happen. But you can learn to spot it, time out, use the prayers. There's a formula later on in step 10. It's pretty clear cut. In between that is direct amends, fixing your past. I could tell you some great stories. Through that process, they invited me back on Wall Street. I got sober in 94, October of 95. A guy, I gave him a big book. He wasn't in AA. I said, Tom, this is the way I'm trying to live. I don't know if I can do it. You know me for years. I don't know if I can pull it off. Read this and tell me what you think. I'm your guy otherwise. I said, the good side for you is you got a lot of leverage because I have no leverage now. So you can hire me cheap, but read the book and tell me what you think. He not only read it, he called me back and he said, that amends list they talk about in there, I want you to bring that with you. Fucking kidding me? The people in AA don't even read that. And you're reading it. And he was on there. Scared to death. We're sitting in Nick's Roast Beef on Cotman Avenue. I'm thinking he's going to scream at me. He takes the sheet and he gets emotional and he says, anybody on here over $5,000, I will pay for you. I don't want you looking over your shoulder if you work for me. Are you friggin' kidding me? He says, can you go to Boca in 2 weeks? We have a conference. I would like you to go in my name. I'm still robbing stores. I steal stuff. You know what I mean? I'm just getting through that business. You know what I mean? I have 35 retail theft convictions because when I need money, these young guys taught me how to rob stores, and I'll tell you about it later. But anyway, I mean, so it was just unbelievable. He was that blown away by the big book. We can't get people in AA to read it. He read it and actually read it. What a concept. And I gave the guy a 3-year commitment, never missed a day, stayed with him 7 years. He sold the company and put me out on my own, kind of screwed me. It looked good at the time, but if you've been paying attention, the world's kind of falling apart, so it ain't the best business in the world, but that's another story. And we're great friends today. It's 10, 11, and 12 is nothing more than taking this stuff and doing it every day the best you can for the rest of your life. Step 10 is an actual formula to live by. When they crop up, what crops up? Defects. They're going to. They don't go anywhere. You don't grow out of them. Like with time sober, you don't grow out of your defects or anything. You just get different ones maybe. But when they crop up, time out. First things first is a biblical quote. Doesn't have anything to do with drinking. First things first means go to God first. You're already on the wrong track. If you didn't pray first, how do you know you have the right answers? So time out. I ask God to remove it. I talk to you about it. Get a little objectivity. Make amends if I already acted out, which is sometimes often. And then the key part, I turn my thoughts away from myself. Enough of me dwelling on this. Let me go to a meeting, try to help somebody. As opposed to coming to a meeting, let me tell you what happened today. I used to buy into that theory that when you share a problem, you're kind of lighten it. But there's a spiritual theory that I didn't pay attention to that I believe today that says when you focus on a problem, you actually make it bigger. Because you're not God. You don't have any problems. Just go to the meeting and try to help somebody. Take your mind off your problems. That's all we do in here. It's not rocket science. You want to draw on them, go ahead. Let me know how that's working out. Never seen anybody happy and contented at AA still sharing about their problems every night. It just doesn't happen. I don't have any problems. I go to the meeting, I ask God to remove them. Sorry for being an asshole again. And boom, let's move on with this. Who can I help? I've never had a problem in my life bother me that I wasn't thinking about. Wow, how about that? Step 11, prayer and meditation, growing with it. I didn't know anything about that. I prayed, but I prayed selfishly. Don't do any good, does it? Well, there's not, as long as you're praying, there's no wrong way to pray. Well, read the book. Apparently there is. They don't say wrong. They say it's ineffective. What the hell does that mean? I spent my whole life, and I this carried into AA. Please, God, keep me sober, which, by the way, that's not in the book anywhere. Please, God, keep me sober. Please bless my family. Please help me in work. Thank you. A guy said to me one day, what do you got, like naked pictures of God or something? You're telling him what to do. Does he owe you something? And I understood that, right? And I like sports analogies. He said, kid, God is not a relief pitcher. He is not going to come in the late innings and bail you out. He's Nolan Ryan. He wants to pitch every inning of every game. Why don't you go play short and field whatever's hit to you and watch what happens? You don't get to pitch anymore. Take the headset off, right? You're not in management anymore. And it started to make sense to me. And I learned to pray. Really, the only difference with prayer is instead of asking God for anything, because that would imply I knew the plan and I knew what I should have, just ask God, what can I do for you? I go to God and I go, Chris Brennan, as if you don't know me, right? But I like to be formal. And I go, I don't really need anything. Trust me, I got a list I could whip out, really, if I wanted to. I'm good, thank you. How can I be of service? What do you want me to do? Let me pay back this debt a little bit, put my mind on somebody I can help, and let's move on with this, and my life goes smoothly. And when I don't do that, it doesn't. And if you learn to pray, let's call it unselfishly, it forces you to meditate. Because if you're asking God to inspire you, you'd be an idiot not to sit quiet and listen for the answers, right? But when you're praying selfishly, you don't need to meditate because you told God what to do. There ain't no meditation involved with that. All you got to do is sit back and wait to get disappointed and then get mad at God. But when you pray unselfishly, inspire me. Tell me what you want me to do. That forces me to sit, try to think about this stuff. In that sense, thinking is good. What does God want me to do? That's good thinking, right? And grow with that. Read a book. My sponsor said, you're really getting into this spiritual stuff, right? Yeah. He goes, well, idiot, there's 10,000 books out there. Go buy one and read it. And I'm like, I'm not really a reader. And I had to train myself like Dr. Bob. As it turns out, I am. I got obsessive with it. I've read every AA history book. I love the history of AA. I've read almost every spiritual book, Dr. Bob's reading list, anything those guys were reading, I wanted to read. And not just read it and discuss it with people. With my sponsees, we do that constantly. We take a couple quotes a day from the guys that Bob and Bill were reading. James Allen, Oswald Chambers, stuff like that. I hate some of those guys. Some of them are very religious. It bothers me. And I was forced to do that. And discuss it. And if you don't want to discuss this, get a new sponsor. If you just want to go to AA and get that guy, hey, how you doing? Good. But I'm not your guy. I can't help you there. There's plenty of that. You can get that. But if you want to go through these steps and learn this and do that, I think I can help you with that. And that's all we do. We have a ball with it. Step 12, we're trying to do tonight. Try to carry this message, which is implying that I don't have a message. You're like, oh, he's got a really good message. No, I'm an idiot. If I had any good advice, trust me, I'd be using it. I ain't got a message. What's my message? I'm a moron. I should be dead or in jail. I really don't have a message. I know the AA message, and I may be able to help you with that. I can maybe help you get to your Creator. I can show you some tricks to praying and stuff like that. If that does it for you, I'll be glad to help you. But sometimes we think, oh, well, he's my sponsor, so he's going to tell me these tricks of being sober. No, as far as I can tell, the longer you stay sober, the older you get, the more miserable you get. It's not like you learn some secret to it. So the longer you stay sober, I believe the more active you got to stay with this stuff, really, because you start to forget and start to think you're normal. Start to think you ain't got to do this stuff at the level you did when you came in and all that. And that's all we do. That's all we do. We study the big book. We use it as a template. We bring other literature into it, but it's got to be 12-step based, no personal problems, because you don't have any. It's not that we don't care about you. I can't fix you. What do you got a mortgage problem. I got to tell you what to do with it? I can hardly pay my mortgage on a good month. You know what I mean? That's called practicing without a license in the real world. We do that all the time in AA. I'll give you legal advice, marriage advice. Look, talk to Bill. You're getting divorced? Talk to Bill. He's been married 6 times. That's AA. That's AA thinking right there, right? But we don't know any better. You know what I mean? But that's all we do. So please, if you're not familiar with this stuff, get with some people, sit down, open the book, and unlock the magic of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So next week's speaker is, we've got Bobby C. from South Philly coming. So that'll be again 8:30 next Saturday. At this time, I'd like to invite all who would like to care to join us in closing with the Lord's Prayer.